when we disagree, we always say, okay, who is this more important to? And you really have to be honest in that moment. You know, the only time I will push for something is when I'm very, I am 1,000,000% confident
You're
that,
convicted.
yeah, and I really don't do that unless I'm sure.
No, that's another good point. Like, there is that trust. You understand me. And when you make the decision to supersede what I feel, I know it's given some deliberate thought. So then that makes me think, okay, now I got to really think about what she's saying.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Humanity Unlocked. I am your host, Kimberly Daya, and today I am co-hosting this episode with my husband, Mark, and together we are discussing the topic of marriage and relationships. And yes, I'm reading from my intro so I don't forget anything. For those of you watching on video. Mark and I have been together for over 20 years and we've been married for 17. We get asked about our marriage and relationship a lot. We've been through quite a bit over the past 17 years in our marriage, and for us, our experience has been that it's brought us closer and it's made our marriage stronger. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll share our strengths and weaknesses, the areas that come easiest to us and where we feel the most solid, the areas we have in common and where we are different, and of course, areas where we are still a work in progress. There's a lot we have planned to share, and we're going to be as transparent as appropriate for a podcast, which is pretty transparent in our case. But I have one disclaimer, and that is to say that this is just what works for us. Given our personality types, it's what's working for us. So this is not marriage advice. I feel like some version though, or the basic principles behind some of the points we share could probably be beneficial across the board, but we're not perfect. We just know what's working for us. So with that said, I want to first welcome my co-host, my husband, Mr. Mark Daya, to Humanity Unlocked. And secondly, I want to thank him for being such a great sport, agreeing to participate in my very first co-hosted episode. So welcome.
Thank you. Should be fun.
Thank you for being here. And are you excited or are you nervous or are you neutral?
I am kind of excited,
Okay.
but a little nervous. Like, you know, I want to make sure that it's fun, entertaining, and yet informative all at the same time. So
Okay.
pressure's on, right?
Yeah, the pressure's on. The entertaining part might be a challenge for us, but we will do our best.
'Cause,
For low-key folk. Okay,
Yeah.
I was trying to decide the best way to start. I'm thinking we should begin by talking about the basic fundamentals of our marriage and relationship that I think we both attribute the success of our marriage to. But before we do that, let's just give a quick background for anyone who doesn't know. If you listened last week to the episode where I gave my personal story, you already know how we met and the circumstances surrounding that. And if you didn't listen or don't know our story, basically, we met when we were 24 and 25. I was a single mom and to my 1-year-old son at the time, recently split from my ex-husband and basically lost everything and was living back at home with my mom and my baby. I was unemployed. It was all the red flags. And I was open.
Yeah, it was like jackpot.
Yeah, I was open about my red flags though during that first phone call. And just to put it into perspective, Mark was a 25-year-old homeowner, right? College graduate from UC Davis, and grew up in, as a privileged only child who went to private schools. The only part of our upbringing that I'd say we have in common is we both, had healthy childhoods. Not much else. So let's talk about our unlikely pairing. I have my version, which I'll share, but let's start with you. Why? Because I get this a lot,
Okay.
People ask, there's a few questions that are most common. This is one of them. Why were the red flags not an issue for you?
I think it was just how you overcame it very quickly with how forthright you are. It was like, well, first of all, I was attracted to you, obviously, met at a bar and I'm like, who's this hot, tall, blonde chick? And then when I started getting to know you, it was, you're like, hey, before we get too far into this thing, let me tell you kind of like my situation, what I got going on. And if you don't want any part of it, I understand, but I just wanted to be, open and transparent with you. And then immediately I'm like, okay, well, you could have told me you murdered somebody at that point, because I would have been like, all right, this is kind of cool.
Yeah,
this
but
is
different. Did you really think I was going to say what I said? It was probably no.
No, I didn't think about anything what you were going to say. But regardless, it was just the matter in which you handled it, and the matter, how you communicated it, that impressed me. And I think it was probably more of your manner of communication. Obviously, being vulnerable and open about, the whole thing too. I just appreciated it.
Yeah.
I could already tell you're different.
Why?
Well, gotta think back, 24, 25, and how do other, people that age and younger back then, right? So 21, 22, 23, what my experience has been over the years, and it's not that. I'll tell you that. You just had way more life experience, and and that all seemed to add up to something positive for me.
Yeah. Something that I've thought about more lately is I wonder how much of my background in business, the work that I used to do in that career, was part of what, my personality. I was so weirdly confident.
Yeah.
Given all I was going through, and weirdly self-assured. And I didn't have a lot of fear. Maybe I was in survival mode, but maybe that translated over. And
I think
and
there's
to me,
something
not
to
trying
that.
to impress.
Well, look. I mean, you had a legitimate business making really good money back then. You worked really, really hard, and what it took to build what you built before you went through that divorce, it was definitely, it's gonna change who you are as fundamentally as a person. And so how you communicate and how you come across is going to be different. It has to be.
And there was so much self-improvement in that business that was basically required. If anybody doesn't know what we're talking about, listen to the last episode, which is in my interview. So I think maybe all that self-improvement, personal development that we had to do, maybe helped too. So,
yeah.
So we were not equally yoked, but I think that my history sort of helped me develop into somebody who you could see yourself with, despite those things.
Yeah. I guess I never really thought about it that way. Or maybe I did, and I just don't remember because it's been obviously so long ago. But I think your history in that, already having a legitimate career, I think was an impressive part of your personality. Mm-hmm. So there's other red flags for sure. Yeah. Right. But then there's this as well. So it's like I'm dealing with a whole different kind of human being now.
Did you think it was going to be long term?
Yeah. Like pretty quick there.
Yeah.
I had a feeling I knew within first 2 weeks it was going to be long term. I back then I was actually talking to an officer recruiter for the Air Force.
Right.
Because I was thinking about joining the Air Force to go to the Defense Language Institute. To learn Arabic or do missile space defense over in Colorado. And I was going down the path, I took the pre-ASVAB and the whole thing, was interviewing with them. And then I met you. I'm like, okay, well, that's not going to work if I want to stay with you. So I just dropped that path and continued forward with you. And I knew that so early on, probably within 2 weeks.
That was within the first month that you asked me. And I said, don't make any career or life decisions based on me because I can't guarantee anything. We weren't even exclusive or anything at that point.
No,
so
but I knew.
That could have been a red flag for me to run because you were so serious.
Well, I tried not to let it on too much.
Yeah, wow, okay. All right. Okay, so moving on, when I think about other aspects of our marriage that I would attribute to a lot of our success too, the first one that comes to mind would be we give each other a lot of grace when it comes to just about everything, almost to a fault, which we'll talk about. But the second is communication. There's pluses and minuses to that though, because we communicate very differently. Mm-hmm. We're going to go through the points, and the first one is I'm an over-explainer. You're an under-explainer. I am very literal. I give all kinds of context and disclaimers and all the nuances. And Mark tells stories backwards with no context. He assumes I know what and who he's talking about. And when, actually this was recently because he kept doing it and I was like, you're doing it again. And then I broke down because I'm such an analytical person and I am a very literal person. Why do you do that? And you said efficiency. Yeah. So in terms of our communication, how big of a role do you think that plays in the success of our marriage?
We have both had to actually modify our own natural ways of communicating to adapt to the other person's needs, right? I have had to tell you specifically to, like, don't beat around the bush, don't be polite, just tell me what you want. I don't need to please. And if you could do this, it would be so nice. No, just tell me what to do, damn it, and I'll do it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't need the niceties or surrounding it.
The disclaimers and
Yeah. And then for you, it's like, okay, you know, sometimes I have to say, okay, be patient. Let's work our way through this. Go from the beginning and, you know, try to step by step explain something where, you know, I want to jump to the end really fast.
Yeah. And so that's what you do. You jump to the end. And then I'm like, did I miss something? And then we have to go back through. So we communicate so differently, but I think I force you to like pull apart your thoughts.
Slow down a little bit,
like, yeah,
and explain it all, you know, completely.
But even if we're having like an issue, like if we're having a disagreement or something, it's like, or if I'm upset with you over something that I maybe took wrong, you know, I slow down and we pull it apart, and then you start to learn more about even why you do what you do, and you might not even have realized it because you don't really, you're not an overly analytical person.
It's my fault.
No. But I am over analytical. And then I'm saying this because there's a lot of couples like this. I overanalyze everything.
But the couples need to understand it's my fault.
No, but I don't feel that way. I don't at all.
No, it's fine. You know, I say that jokingly, right? Because, you know, like, I don't need to be right. I just need to make sure that the point is made, and however it needs to be made. So
yeah.
I just have to learn and adapt to your style of communication, just like you've done with me. Like, you know, I will grow impatient if you don't get to the point, and just, you know, tell me what exactly that you need a favor for, or what you need done, or.
But that's really only when I need something from you. If I'm communicating with you about anything else, you're super patient.
I just sit back on the couch and you
listen.
know, I let you vent to me, or, you know, just, you know, you just kind of use me as a sounding board, and I'm okay with that. But you're right. No, it's more specifically about getting things done, task-oriented things. Because once I receive an order, once I receive a task, I want to do it. Like now, like, you're slowing me down. Be quiet already.
Yeah. Which is so weird because I've talked to a lot of women who their husbands are very sensitive, and if they don't wrap it up nicely with a bow, then they take it the wrong way. So I am like, oh my gosh, Marcus is the exact opposite. And what's so funny is that I have been accused by so many people of being rude to you. And we've been together 20 years. So I have been trained to be very direct. Like, I would call him within our first couple of years together, and I would say, hey, if you get a chance, and if it's not too much trouble, you don't have to, like, if you're too busy, don't worry about it. And it would piss him off so badly. He was like, I swear to God, if you don't just get to the point, I'm not going to do it. So now I say, Mark, I need you to do this. And I remember recently my son, who tends to be a little more sensitive, is like, Mom, geez, you could say it nicely. I'm like, he doesn't care. It doesn't matter. So if you ever hear me being super direct with Mark, just know that's the communication that he prefers. So, you know, moving on, like, this may surprise people because I am such a listener, but with you, I tell you every thought in my head, and you let me. You hold these infinite amounts of space, and no one's ever done that. So I will go on and on because you'll listen forever. But you're the only person I do that with. But recently, I would say in the last 2 years, you have had to, this is more when it's supposed to be a conversation, but it ends up being one way.
Yeah.
You've had to point it out to me.
Yeah.
So let's tell the listeners.
Yeah. No. I remind you that it's a conversation, not a monologue. So in other words, sometimes your method of communication will be such that where you'll just go on and on and on. It's not that you don't take a breath, you do, but you don't create pauses, or you don't throw in a question like, don't you agree? What do you think? Or whatever, right? It is just like a continuous thought that never ends. And that's where I'm like, you know, hey, is this, you know, do you want me to add to this? Or sometimes I wouldn't add to it for the longest time. And you just get so frustrated. Like, aren't you listening? I'm like, yeah, but I'm losing interest now because you're not engaging me.
Gosh, that's so funny. And I always thought that because I am used to communicating in a way where with people who, because I am more of a listener, people always cut me off. Always. I always get cut off. People never let me finish my thought. So Mark doesn't do that. And so I just figure he has nothing to say. If he's not cutting me off, he will wait until I'm done, which is never. And then so that's been actually a recent thing that I have had to pay attention to. And also I interrupt you, right? Because you were saying, yeah, you actually brought that up in the same when we were having that.
Yeah,
this was like maybe 2 years ago or so, but I think I'm getting better at it.
Yeah, definitely it's improved.
Yeah,
sure.
You got to think, because you're the only person that I have in my life. I mean, I'm sure like my mom and but who has that I feel completely comfortable unloading.
Right.
You are the most, and I'm not just saying this, secure man that I know. You don't have a big ego. You don't get your feelings hurt, even when you should get your feelings hurt. I think I've tried to hurt your feelings a few times and it doesn't work. Like tried to like shame you into going to the gym, not like in a mean way, but being like, like you just don't, you have very secure. And so I can be totally and completely honest with you about things. And I feel like I don't know. You tell me, am I the same way? I mean, I'm not as secure as you are, not by a mile, but what do you think?
Well, I mean, I never really thought about, you're secure. I mean, I never feel I have to tiptoe around you, if that makes sense. So from that respect, it's normal. It's not something I really think about. You just kind of go about your daily. I guess that's the point, right?
Yeah,
exactly. I don't have to think about it. It's and neither do you. You don't have to worry about hurting my feelings. I'm not hurting your feelings. So.
I just think about things don't occur to you until you hear about other people's marriages.
Okay.
And I think that
which I don't hear much of, by the way.
Of course, well, you're a man.
Yeah.
It's a little different, but a lot of. I don't know, like you're not sensitive and you don't take things personal and you don't have a big ego and you don't get offended easily. Things that maybe even should offend you don't offend you. Like even if it's like a hard situation with like a person, like it could be like a client or an agent or somebody at work or
I don't like to get my ruffles feathered. I mean,
feathers ruffled.
That's what I said, right? No, I don't. I like my little bubble that I keep around me, and my protection bubble, so to speak. It prevents high highs and low lows, but it can be a detriment too, because sometimes those high highs and low lows can be beneficial.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't have really too much of an ego from that respect. I don't need to be right. I don't need to have words of affirmation. I don't need, if you say like, Mark, you should be going to the gym. Your body is, you have a dad bod. I'm like, yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, that's a good point. Rather than being offended, I'm like, yeah, you know what? I am kind of have a dad bod.
Like things don't occur to you. Like you don't ever get jealous. I'm not even talking just like things regarding me. I'm talking about in general. Like you're not threatened by other people.
I'm not envious of other people's success. Right. And I strive to be like others, but when other people achieve like higher levels than me, I just simply look at them with admiration.
I know.
Rather than envy. I
know.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever looked at somebody else and be like, oh man, that should be me.
Yeah, I think we have that in common. That's another thing we have in common. But as far as the secure thing, I think that there are a lot of men who are very sensitive. Tone is a big thing with them, like someone's tone.
Yeah.
They when they don't get their needs met in terms of like just, I don't know, they're just sensitive. So I don't know, I can't think of an example right now.
No,
but
I don't think it's. I think what's most interesting is just how different people are. Yeah, that's who I am, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's how you've adapted to me, and that's how I go about my daily life. But other people are going to be very, very different. The question is, how do you utilize those differences to achieve other things? Like, for example, like, some people are I'm the opposite of volatile, right? I'm like steady Eddie. But for the people that are volatile, okay, yeah, there are some downfalls to being volatile, but then there are some, upsides too. The question is, how do you control it? How do you manage it? How do you harness it is a better way to create a better life for yourself.
Yeah. I think, you're very consistent. You're always the same. You don't ever, I've been with you for 20 years and you're the same person every day.
Sorry.
Like, even on your bad days, you can't tell a difference. No, don't be sorry. It's a good thing. I was just going to say, neither one of us take things too personally. But if we do get our feelings hurt, then we don't have no qualms about telling each other. We disagree about a lot of things pretty regularly. But we very respectfully disagree. And a lot of times, like, he'll say, well, that makes sense, but have you thought about it from this way, and then vice versa. So I don't know. It's just our styles. We're very similar in our styles of fighting, if you call it that. So we're also pretty good about owning the truth if we're wrong. Like, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Like, if you've proven me wrong about something, I'm good. Like, oh, I didn't know. Okay, gosh, sorry. I had no idea. I apologize. And vice versa. I think again, that comes back to the no ego thing. So a lot of people have to be right. And I think that we're one of those couples who just would rather be happy. Even if I still think I'm right about something, well, it's like, I'm still a little bit right. I do my best, try not to hold on to that. I won't say I never do, because sometimes for me, it's about, there's a word, we've talked about this too. It's like I'm a dog with a bone sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's usually when I feel like you're not understanding. Like, I will so over explain it to death, and I know you want it to be over. And so you're like, okay, I get it. Okay, I get it. And I'm like, but you don't get it.
When I try to shut you up by placating you.
And then what that does is it fuels me.
You up.
But not fires me up in like an angry, yelling way.
No.
It just makes me want to keep explaining until,
no,
you must understand.
End.
You must. If I just explain it even more, you'll get it. Just keep listening. So I am one that when I can be a dog with a bone if I really do feel like I'm right about something. But sometimes, you have to learn when it's worth it and when it's not. And so,
to your credit, you actually have not done that in a while.
I know, I'm getting better. See, because when someone communicates something to me, like, hey, you
used to do that all the time.
I know. Well, but you didn't. I don't think I even realized it. When someone tells me, it's like, noted. Like, I'm no perfect person, and I know I'm not right all the time. So I'm good if I'm good to look at my own faults, because I always want to be improving. So,
right.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for recognizing. Okay, so let's address maybe the most obvious question and comment I personally get. Not sure if you get this too, which is about my health and how we navigated that within our marriage. Why and how you were able to endure that. Share with the listeners what it was like for you to be you're basically Jasmine's primary parent for the first 3 years of her life. A lot of people have said, and I did talk about this in my solo episode, have said he stuck by you. It was almost like surprised that you would endure and be as graceful about taking that on. You weren't really prone to get upset. You didn't react a lot. Maybe that comes down to who you are as a person. But let's let the listeners hear from you what you felt during that time.
Okay. So, like I said before, I don't like being steady, right? I don't like my feathers ruffled.
Right.
And through trials and tribulations, I try to maintain that steadiness. And that is just my comfort zone. I know they always say you want to go outside your comfort zone for growth, but that is one place that I haven't grown very well in. But to my advantage, to our advantage in this particular circumstance, because look, what choice do you have, right? Like, well, first of all,
you did. You could
okay,
have left.
so, but is that yes, but that's a false choice,
right?
Is that really on the table?
Honey, you have no idea how many men leave their wives.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, well, I mean, when this started, I guess it was started right before Jasmine.
I was pregnant with her. Well, yeah,
No, it was before.
the month before, yeah.
It was before. So I think that, I mean, well, just the first sign of something, you're going to jump ship. I mean, that seems
No.
pretty weak.
No, I would have said like when Jasmine was maybe a toddler, when you were really doing it all.
So then when she's a toddler, then what? Like, okay, I'm going to be a single dad. I mean, I don't even think that those kinds of things cross my mind, just because that just sounds miserable.
Yeah.
So, you could either, oh gosh, it's so corny to say, like,
You can do it. Just be corny.
Okay. So, the grass is always greener where you water it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they always say grass is greener on the other side, but really, is it? Because, could I have found happiness somewhere else? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, who knows? Right. But I mean, clearly I found happiness staying where I was at. You just have to, persevere and push through the hard times. And we went through the hard times, and we've had much, much, much better times since then. But there's always been trials, and there's always been, constant struggle with your energy. It's never like an issue, it never goes away. Our days are unpredictable, to say the least. When I come home from work, I have no idea what I'm going to be walking into in terms of how you're feeling that day. That's just a natural part of the day.
Yeah.
Daily life.
Yeah.
So, why do I stay? Why did I stay or whatever? I guess it's just, I never really thought of it as too much of a choice.
Yeah.
And
were you miserable?
No, it was hard.
Yeah.
But not miserable. I feel like, look, here's what would be miserable. Let me tell you what would be miserable. Miserable would be you wallowing in it, you identifying as a sick person.
I did for a while.
Well,
but yeah, I know what you mean.
You know what I mean? It would be you just, making excuses all the time because of how you're feeling, instead of being like, instead of sucking it up and doing the best that you can. Mm-hmm. See, the one thing I could always say for you is that you could always put your best foot forward. Every day you woke up thinking, oh, today's gonna be a good day.
Yeah.
And then very quickly you realize it wasn't going to be. But at least you started the day that way, believing okay, today my illness is going to disappear. Like I forget I'm a sick person.
Every day for so long, I just kept thinking that.
Yeah. So, from my perspective, how can you fault somebody that has that attitude? Now, if you have the opposite attitude, which is, well, today's going to suck. My life is miserable. My life is over. And then having that frame of mind, and then how that would impact the rest of your day and the rest of your week and the month and your year and then our lives, then that might be a different situation. Yeah. With what I might choose to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel maybe as a person, as a personality, and as a person, I didn't change. Not to say there weren't hard days and most hard days, but I think that, I don't know, I'm not prone to self-pity. And that, again, could go back to my former career, where personal development at such a young age. I mean, I was 17 when I started, 19 when I went full-time in that career, 24 when I left. And so for 5 years, full-time, just daily personal development, I feel like that's maybe what has saved me and my mindset during this. It could be, because, like I said, it's not that I didn't feel that way. It's just that I knew better than to allow that to take over, because I know what that looks like. Mm-hmm. I'd studied it for too long to do otherwise. So, yeah, that makes sense to me. Mm-hmm. Okay. So on the topic of another tenet, I would say, of our marriage that I think works in our favor is we both have a lot of tolerance. We're both very slow to anger. Mm-hmm. It takes a lot to get us angry. with each other, with the outside world, with other people, we might get like annoyed, but we're very slow to anger. And that could be our childhood. We know we did grow up with very healthy childhoods with parents who were well functioning and were very stable, mentally in that way. So it takes a lot. I mean, Mark has never, ever in 20 years called me a single name, ever. Not even like something like stupid, like nothing. Has never called me a name. I think maybe you've raised your voice maybe 3 times. I couldn't even tell you what it was about, but, and that was just to probably get me to shut up. Who knows? But, yeah, so it's, I think, a big one that we're both slow to anger. As far as like other things, I think that Mark tolerates, like, we don't nitpick small stuff. But there are things that are like bigger that we sometimes wish were different. Like I am not someone who likes to cook. And ever since our kids got older, Jordan moved out, Jasmine cooks all of her own meals because she has special dietary needs and she likes to have control over how everything's cooked. I just don't cook at all, at all. And that is part of what I think Mark would really love for me to do and change. And I feel like that's coming soon because but you don't complain about the fact I don't. And you don't, I mean, I know that you'd like it, but it's like you tolerate the fact, like, I think what we do is we kind of look at each other as a whole picture. Like you do, in my eyes, you do so many other things well that for me to get upset with you about something small, like we'll talk about working out, for example. I've worked out a few times a week, every week for 6 years. And you are a perfectly healthy person that could definitely make time to work out. If you got, you already get up early and you just don't ever like
not early enough.
Well, but you could get, you don't need a lot of sleep, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You'll go once and then, or twice and then not go back for a month or two. And then you'll go. And so it's like, you don't ever like, and it annoys me because I'm like, just if I was in your shoes and I had the energy you have and I didn't need all the sleep, you better believe I'd be hitting that gym. Just like I used to before I got sick. I used to go to the gym. I got up at 4:30 a.m. every morning, got to the gym when they opened. And I cannot for the life of me understand why you wouldn't do that. Not that Mark doesn't have a weight problem or anything like that, but I'm just like, he's got great genetics. And when he's in his best shape, he looks amazing. I'm like, why wouldn't you want to do that? But I tolerate it. Again, like this is where giving the grace comes in. It's like,
you tolerate my uncleanliness
and him being messy. You're very messy.
My disorganization.
I think would you prefer that I focus less energy on keeping things neat and tidy and more energy on cooking?
Ooh, I don't know. We should
experiment. Like meal prepping?
We should experiment with that.
I don't know if I can. Well, just the not being tidy part, because that would
drive you crazy.
Ooh, can you imagine? You're so used to it though. It's like
I could tolerate a certain amount of it, but like I couldn't tolerate it like if it were hugely in big disarray. Just small messes I can live with. Yeah. Big messes I can't.
Do you remember when I was really sick and like there would be days where a lot of days I couldn't do it. Like we'd have family members come and help us, and then we had Becca, of course, live with us for a couple of years, but where the house just would not get cleaned, and you care less. Like it just didn't even phase you, and maybe it did. You just didn't show it, but you weren't really like for you. It meant more if like a neighbor or a friend would drop off a meal than someone come and clean our house.
Oh yeah.
For me, I'm like, someone just come and clean. I just want someone to come and clean our house.
That's
so
true.
it's so funny.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I would say is like Mark has. Okay, so this is something lately I have been told about. I have people say it to me. So Mark is a real estate broker. He's never not working. Like I'm pulling him from work to do this today.
Mm-hmm.
Because I promised him a date night after. So no, I'm just kidding. He would have done it anyway. But he's never not working. He's never off the clock. So if that phone rings at 11 o'clock at night or 6 in the morning, it gets answered. If it rings on a date night,
It's been ringing off the hook right now, but I'm not answering it.
Thank you. It's on. I must not. Yeah, it's on silent. Would you like to answer it for the group so everyone can see that I'm definitely not exaggerating? Is it ringing right now?
Not at this moment.
Okay. So anyway, we will be in a full deep conversation because we have a lot. We talk a lot. We talk often in the mornings and in the evenings. We're a very conversational couple, and I will be like really like in it, and his phone will ring, and I see his eyes glance over, and I go, "Do you need to get that?" And he's like, "Just be 1 second." And you guys, I have been crying before, like having a bad day, being like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. My eating has been on point. I've done this, I've done that. I just feel like such crap. I can't understand why. And the phone will ring, and he has answered it so many times. And I am bawling my eyes out, and you're answering your phone. So again, tolerance. But I have since told him, like, how hard would it be to just, all of this can wait usually. Yeah.
Sometimes, look, I yes and no. People don't really understand the profession, so it's hard to grasp.
I've been around it for.
No, I'm just talking about in general, other people, but like it's not so much of a job as it is a lifestyle.
I know.
And you get the perks of it, which is like you're always around, because when you are crying, my phone doesn't ring. It could be in the middle of the day and I'm right there. Or it could be in the evening, and where normally somebody, would be available, and all of a sudden I'm not. Mm-hmm. Right? It's like, you get the pros and cons of it. But no, I try to mute my phone. I do like to know who's trying to reach me, because sometimes I could just tell if it's going to be fast, or I know if it's going to be emergency.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll just pick it up and say, hey, listen, let me give you a call back in just a few minutes, because, they're, somebody that I know.
But you understand that more women than not would not be okay with that.
Yeah, they'd probably grab my phone and throw it out the window.
Oh my gosh. I know women who, like, it would be a non-negotiable. Like this, they would, yes.
Yeah, I don't think I could actually do this job if that were the case.
Yeah, I mean, it's a deal. If you can't tolerate it, it's a deal breaker in a relationship with Mark, because it's 24/7. But, there's a price to pay to have the lifestyle that we had. Not that we're like, like completely living high on the hog, but
the
it's a price to pay.
Lifestyle is freedom's a funny word.
Yeah.
Flexibility. Let's call it that. I have way more flexibility doing what I do than any other career. And that's what it is. It's not freedom. It's just flexibility. And that's the price that you pay for that kind of flexibility.
It's like Jasmine's cheer competitions. It's like you attended every single one, but there were many times where you had to step out, not while she was on stage, but had to step out and take phone calls and make phone calls out in the lobbies. And, we were traveling all over the place.
All the time. Yeah.
So it's just, it's the price you pay, I think. And this goes back to tolerance. It's not, I understand that, I don't earn an income, not yet. Hopefully at some point with this little gig I'm doing.
Subscribe.
Yeah, subscribe. I don't earn an income. So for me, it's like, okay, well, this is the price we pay. So I deal with it. But sometimes I wish, like, oh my gosh, pick and choose those moments a little bit more carefully when you want to pick up the phone. Okay. So we have always said that, maybe you said it and I agreed with you. I can't remember, but we've always said marriage is hard, but not that hard. Mm-hmm. Like, marriage is hard because you have to agree on
consider somebody else.
Right. And you were an only child. So for you were always just the only person that you had to worry about. But I think we both, and I'm going to say that it's probably just luck of the draw in our case. We just got lucky with each other because we're both very tolerant, even keel, consistent people. Things don't tend to be hard for us in our marriage. We tend to agree. And when we disagree, we just were able to sort of figure it out easily. It's just, so it's hard, but it's not that hard.
For us. It's just, I think it's just, you're reasonable, I'm reasonable. We figure it out and move on,
Yeah. I think,
where it gets hard is maybe when you have these real life issues, health issues, right? That's where, I think it could get much more challenging.
Yeah. Yeah. We are both, coming into the marriage, we are, we have some similar, like we're both Christian. We're a little more traditional with our sort of roles in the marriage. But we give each other a lot of grace. Like if he, needs me to do something that would normally be his job, I'm willing to do it. And if I need to do, obviously if he has to do something that's more my job, like taking care of Jasmine her first few years, he'll do it. So we're definitely willing to like step in. I don't think we necessarily love when we have to do that. At least I don't. I hate doing like the stuff that he's better at. But I'm willing, I'm willing to do it. And to me, that's not like a hill I'm going to die on. Like it's just not, it's not a deal breaker.
Yeah, it's a good way to think about it.
Yeah, it's not a deal breaker. It's like if I have to do certain, like I don't like taking my car to the mechanic. I don't like just certain things I don't like doing. I want him to do, but I do them. And a lot of women wouldn't. You'd be surprised. Okay, so I would say we're both very neutral types. We see both sides of almost every situation. Mm-hmm. We'll lean a certain way in situations. We tend to both mm-hmm. lean the same direction, but not always, definitely not always. But we're very good at seeing all sides, which is probably why we don't argue, because we can mm-hmm. see things from each other's point of view, or we don't fight. We argue, we disagree, but we don't fight. I don't want to give anybody the false, understanding. I would say we're both tend to be more unselfish in the way that, to me, I feel like because you have front loaded our marriage with so much unselfishness and kindness, to me, my goal is to always be reciprocating and like as much as I can, like what in the areas that I can give back. And it's not because he's ever asked me to or made me feel guilty. He never has. He doesn't even, I don't think, care. But I always think.
Well, maybe that's why you do it.
Yeah, I mean, true. I mean, I probably would be more bitter if it was.
Well, we're not keeping score.
Right.
So It's not like I'm like, I did this and I'm expecting you to do that. So in other words, it's not like a score sheet that I keep where I'm saying I'm tracking all of my good deeds and all of the things that I think I go above and beyond for you.
Yeah.
I don't think about it. I just do it. And then I don't expect anything in return. And that's developed the same habit, or maybe you're just the same way too. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if you were just the same way or if that was something where I led by example and you followed, but it's easily reciprocated.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I have a lot of gratitude for our marriage. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of gratitude for the amount of grace that you've given me in our marriage. And so for me, it's like I'm always, like it's not hard for me to want to like, I don't know, like make up, find reasons and ways to be unselfish, I guess. But I don't know where I was going with all that. But I think we're also comfortable in the mundane, like maybe a little too comfortable. What I mean by that is we enjoy each other's company when we're doing nothing, and we don't need a lot of stuff and a lot of plans to enjoy our relationship. Like we're just the day to day, I think each other, to enjoy each other's company. Mm-hmm. Where I know there's a lot of couples who always have to be doing something or planning something,
doing trips, doing social stuff,
involving
friends.
But whatever. I wish we were more like that sometimes.
Yeah, actually, I was just going to say the same thing.
Yeah, we're so complacent.
Yeah. I agree with you to a fault. And to where we're talking about our New Year's resolutions, saying like we're going to be more social.
We do this every year.
We're gonna invite somebody over for dinner.
We're so complacent.
Yeah.
It's a good thing and a bad. I mean, it's a good thing because we're pretty much always happy with each other in the marriage, but it's like our lifestyle is boring.
How happy can you be, right? Like, yeah, you're content. And there's a certain level of where like contentment's not enough.
Yeah.
You got to go out and it's complacency. You gotta go out and live and meet people and what's life for? What are you trying to get?
Well, I think that for me, I'll speak for myself. I think that I spent so many, the pendulum swung. I mean, I was one way for many years, and then it swung the opposite direction, and I went the other extreme. And I think I got so used to being a homebody and like not really having a social life. And your social life really was mine. Like you kind of, like you would, like I was in charge of all that kind of stuff. And so when I stopped doing that, we just didn't have one, and we haven't had one for many years, not like a consistent one. Yeah. And so, I think for me, it's hard to change back, or it's hard to go back. Change is hard. It was hard for me to slow down. Now it's hard for me to get going. Mm-hmm. So, but I do recognize the value in it. And I know you do, because you're always, for you, I know that it really fills you, with like, I feel like it, re-energizes you.
It does. But I think the biggest challenge, and probably the reason why it's just fallen off as a priority list, is because of the unpredictability of your health. Right? If you knew that on Friday night you were going to feel good and we were going to go do something, we would make plans ahead of time and we'd do it. But the fact is, it's like Friday night can come and you might just you're going to suffer through it.
Well, I mean, yes and no. I mean, I can't always use, that's an excuse that I could definitely use, but I always assume I'm going to feel fine. So it's not really fair to use that excuse. I think it's more...
Well, do you think that's what generated the habit?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
But anymore, it's just... I think there's a lack of motivation for me to do it, to be the person that's in charge, or like the person making the plans. And even though I used to totally be that way. And unless you're coming to me, I just don't even think about it unless somebody's coming to me, and you're too busy to be even thinking about making social plans. So they just don't get made. Yeah. But it is something that I think we're trying to get better at. And we have gotten a little better at it, especially with doing the podcast, because it's reunited me with a lot of people, and I've met new people. So, it's I would say being comfortable in the mundane is, again, it's a plus because we enjoy each other's company, but it's a minus because I'm a little too complacent. The next area would be our good habits. We show interest in what each other is thinking, doing, saying, and feeling. So, I ask Mark every single day, how his day was, like within the first minute of him walking in the door. And I want to hear about his day. I want to hear, what happened that day, good and bad and everything. And we really walk through the day, and I want it like, oh, I met with this person. And then I'll ask a lot of, where's their house? I show a lot of interest, not because I'm fascinated with real estate, but because it doesn't take, I'm a curious person by nature. We all know this. So it doesn't take a lot of effort for me, but I also think it's a good habit to show interest in what your significant other is, what they do with their time, what they're up to, and keeping up to date if you're not spending, that time with them. And I can always then follow up in a conversation like, hey, what ended up happening with that one agent you met with? Like, did you end up bringing him on board, or like, is he coming? So it's just, for me, it's like, I always feel like I have, I'm a part of that. It gives me a little part of it. So, and then with me, I feel like you're that way with the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that knowing that you're interested in my day. I mean, what's the opposite, right? Like I could come home and it could just be like just sit on the couch and veg. I mean, you know what I mean? Having that daily recap is it's a good way of touching base.
Yeah,
it's always good to touch base. Like, hey, how was your day? What did you do? How was your day? What did you do? It could be totally boring. It doesn't have to be exciting. But if you don't touch base, you're not a team. True. And which is the first time I've ever thought about this, but on my real estate team, we touch base every Monday morning and every Friday morning, just to touch base. Hey, how was your week? Like, what did you do? Or like, what do you have going on this weekend? And whatever. We
showing
touch
interest
base.
in what they're up to. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can imagine that if we never did that, the people wouldn't know each other. There'd be no connection. There'd be no bond, even though they're not like. It's not like there's some bond between them, like the individual team members, but just the fact that they're touching base and just knowing each other, does create a sense of community.
Yeah.
And but in the same exact way, we do that, in the marriage, and it creates that bond. So yeah,
I think too, you always want the recap on Jasmine. Like, hey, how was,
definitely. Because she won't tell me, because she only could tell you one time. She could only
she doesn't
tell.
want to repeat herself.
No, she could only tell the story once.
Yeah. So
And
when you
if
come
I'm
home,
not the first one, I have to get it from you.
when you come home, she's usually in her room. And so we talk about, how Jasmine's doing, what happened at school, whatever. So yeah, so that's one of our good habits is we show interest in what each other's up to. He shows interest in the podcast, and he does help me with the podcast a lot. So, and it's like he is happy. I think we look for ways to be a part of each other's lives, even in indirect ways. So
yeah, in addition to being a real estate broker, I'm an audio engineer.
You're an audio engineer. Yeah, exactly. So if the audio is not good on this podcast, you can blame Mark.
It's my fault.
Okay, so I also think we don't take advantage of kindness with each other. Like I really, it would be very, very easy for me to take advantage or take it for granted and start expecting it or whatever. But it's like that's when you'll start losing it, and they'll get bitter and they'll want to show that extra kindness and grace less. So for me, it never loses its. I don't know. I've just never lost the appreciation for it because I know that it's something that is, it's not a given that you're always going to have that in a marriage. So, we recognize each other's strengths and this is a big one. We recognize each other's strengths and we focus on them. There's no competition. We go, to each other for advice in the areas that we're each good at. Mm-hmm. We've talked about this recently, how husband and wives tend to be more competitive when the more similar they are. They tend to be competitive. I have met a few different couples and that are always in competition with each other, and they're always keeping score. And it tends to be the couples that have
the most similar.
Similar
traits or characteristics. Interesting.
Yeah. And I've been thinking, like, have you and I ever been competitive about anything?
No, never.
I think it's because we're so different. Like, what would we compete about?
Well, I'll tell you this. I mean, to the point that we're so different is, what the reason why I knew right away when I first met you that you were special to me, or could be, the person I was going to marry, is like you complemented all of the things that I felt that I lacked.
Yeah.
For example, you are way better at communicating than I am. Your emotional intelligence is off the charts. Your genius level on that, and I'm just like a freaking moron when it comes to.
I wouldn't say that.
Well, okay, fine, but let's just say I would consider it a weakness of mine, mm-hmm. and it is like a superpower of yours. Mm-hmm. Okay, and when I knew that for me to be in a healthy relationship, I would need to be with somebody that can effectively communicate and combine that with that emotional intelligence to bring certain things out of me. So that way I wouldn't bottle it up. We could talk things out. I just needed to have somebody that can just, because that's what I'll just naturally do. It's not that I'm trying to suppress it. It's just that I just won't acknowledge something for whatever reason.
Right.
But you'll recognize it before I do and then pull it out. And I knew that was something that was going to be important for me to be in a successful relationship with. And so to that statement that we are different, very different in some of these fundamental ways. So yeah, we're not competing. We're not doing any of that stuff. My strengths are your weaknesses, mm-hmm. and your strengths are my weaknesses.
That's very, very true.
So it's more of a great compliment than it is a competition.
Yeah, very well put. I would say that I go to you for business advice, like work stuff, like obviously with this podcast and other endeavors I've done in the past. I obviously go to you for all of the more sophisticated areas of life that don't involve, people skills, like just knowing how to, like there's just certain, I'm just trying to think of anything one specific that I can come up with. You do so much, and you just have a knack for things I don't have a knack for, in understanding how the world works, mm-hmm. I think is like, to put it very broadly. And for me, you're more macro and I'm more micro.
Yeah. So
I understand like small things and little, Yeah. So for me, like people, like I'll go to you for advice on more broader subjects, and you come to me for, I feel like, more people when you're dealing with personality stuff, whether
It's
it's
your
the kids,
superpower. It's not even close.
whether
Yeah.
it's the kids or whether it's, a client situation or agent or whatever. It's like, we just really, I feel like it's a resource. We use each other as a resource that way. And I really respect your knowledge and your awareness of things that I have no knowledge or awareness in, and I think vice versa. So I think that, that comes in handy. Would never even compare to me, or it would never even occur to me to compare or to compete with him. There's just no competition. Like, I don't even know what areas we would do that. It's funny because even like Jasmine's first few years when you were the primary parent, where she really preferred you over me, which is very, very rare. And I could have taken that very, very personally. I didn't like it in terms of like, I wanted her to want me. Obviously, I'm her mom. But because I was, I guess, dealing with so many health issues, it only made sense, obviously. But I was just thankful that she had Mark, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think around between 3 and 4, when I started to get a little better, she came over to me, and now we're more, well, not right now. She's closer to me as a teenager, but for many years it was 50-50. Okay. So when we can't decide on what to do, when we disagree, like if we're at odds and butting heads on something important, we go with, not butting heads, but like he wants to do something or he thinks something and I think different or whatever. We always say, okay, who is this more important to? And you really have to be honest in that moment. Like, okay, like which person is like, I'm going to use an example. A couple weeks ago was the Sac Republic Soccer, their last game, and you took the team, right? And from work, and I was supposed to go, and that night really was not feeling well. I knew that he really wanted me to go, so I just said, if you really, and I just tell me honestly, if you really, really want me to go, if this is really, really important to you, I will rally and I will go. But you need to let me know how important this is to you. And he was just like, I would prefer you were home comfortable than being there and being uncomfortable, because I know you're not going to have a good. Anyway, long story short, we really had that. And if he had really wanted me to go, I would have gone. And there's many times where it's like that, where we just have to really figure out who it's more important to.
Yeah, I wish I had a better example, because
I wish I did too.
It's more of that's a soft example.
Yeah, it is.
It would be something where we're actually more butting heads on, where it's more of
maybe like a purchase, like spending money on something. That's usually something.
Yeah, that can be something that we'll butt heads on, because I am more conservative or more frugal than you, and you value convenience more than I do.
Oh, good one. That's it. That's exactly what it is.
And so there'll be some scenario revolving that.
That's exactly what it is. I'm happy to pay for convenience and something that saves me time and effort, where Mark is happy to go like spend the time and effort when he doesn't even have it. And I'm happy to pay a premium for that. And we will actually figure out who something's more like flights, for example. Like when we go to Hawaii, there's the comfort. We don't do like first class and all that, but there's the comfort seats or whatever. And we've talked many times about like stuff like that, like spending the extra money. And what it comes down to is we know at this point that it is more important to me most of the time.
Yeah.
But there are obviously shorter flights. It's not as important to me. So then we don't spend the money. So I think that's really what it comes down to, is like convenience and comfort, paying a premium for that or not. That's where we usually use that little principle.
Yeah, that's one place. And there are others I can't think of right now where we're like literally butting heads on it. And it's a real issue, and I can't even for the life of me imagine what it is. One could be, putting Jasmine in cheerleading. Doing all-star cheer.
Yep.
And the commitment to that. And this is like all-star cheer is no joke.
No,
this is like practically a year-long thing. cost thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars between the travel and the gym and everything else that goes along with it.
Yep.
And you were just so emphatic of like how important it was going to be for Jasmine's benefit to participate in that.
Yeah.
That at the end, I as much as I didn't want to do it, didn't want to spend the money, didn't want to inconvenience myself, didn't want to just put my year on hold. No, it wasn't on hold, but damn, it was a commitment.
Yeah.
I mean,
But what do you think about it now?
oh well, yeah, you're always right.
No. Truthfully, like, do you feel like it was a good investment?
Oh yeah, 1,000%. I mean, look, she won nationals, so
Yeah.
that was amazing, and the whole experience, the whole journey, from the lows to literally winning
With
the
her,
national
yeah.
championship to providing her the happiest moment of her life.
Yeah. I do think that, the only time I will push for something is when, like, push very hard against it is when I'm very, like, I am 1,000,000% confident
You're
that.
convicted.
Yeah. And I really don't do that unless I'm sure. I really reserve that. And I think
Yeah.
I built up trust that way with you.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to do that for
Yeah.
just anything.
Yeah, no, that's another good point. Like there is that trust. There is that I know you understand me. And when you make the decision to want to supersede what I feel, I know it's given so with deliberate thought. So then that makes me think, okay, I got to really think about what she's saying. And, and then if I can't articulate well enough why it shouldn't be the case. And isn't that funny? That's how it is. It's you wanting to do something and me saying no. That's what just like kind of like what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well, a lot of it comes back, I think, to spending because Mark is very frugal. He's a saver, and we don't. The thing is we don't do a lot. So, we don't do a lot. We just started like barely traveling, if you could even call it that, and we're not just on audio, Mark. We're on video, and you just yawned. So
sorry.
The YouTube crowd saw that.
It's late.
It is late. So I'm always going back to like, we do nothing. Like we don't really do anything. Like let's put the money towards something that actually gives us, gives her something, gives us something or whatever. So I usually can rationalize it that way. Well, other ways too. Okay. So as far as like bad habits we've inherited, I have went from being a class A planner to a procrastinator because Mark sort of at home behaves like nothing is urgent. Like nothing is urgent to him at home. He has a very whatever attitude. He's very flexible. Like he just doesn't put a lot of care or effort into things being a certain way. And so I tend to let things go, and that goes for like the exterior of our house, like our backyard or like the garage, or like there's just certain areas where in the past I would have been like planning for the weekends for us to take care of those things, or like I don't know, like I just am more like on the ball with that kind of stuff. I have become more of a procrastinator and have more of a lackadaisical attitude in areas that I previously would not have, because I think I've gotten that a little bit from you. And of course you've gotten my lackadaisical attitude on our social life. Mm-hmm. So we have inherited each other's bad habits a bit. And the other thing is like, we're not the type to hold each other accountable or parent each other. Again, it comes back to, we give each other too much grace. Like sometimes I wonder like, how much should I push him? How much should I, like, when I know that like, gosh, he just needs a break. He's been working all week. Like, am I really going to make him go like work out in the yard? Am I really going to ask him to, I don't know. Like for me, it's like, who cares? Like I have inherited the whatever attitude, like it's fine. And sometimes like, I wonder, like, are we do we give it too much grace?
I definitely think so, because I've always known that I am a lazy person. As hard as I work and as like workaholic, so to speak, as I am, I am that way because it's more motivated by fear than anything else.
Yeah.
And but my natural state is to be lazy and to veg, and that is kind of like my normal.
Yeah.
And so when you see me out there hustling all the time, that's not my normal. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong. It's like, you develop new habits and everything like that. But, given the opportunity to do it, I will gladly sit on the couch and go watch Suits or something like that. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm not a fan of being a nag. I just don't want to be.
Yeah.
And if I cared a lot, like if we're having something at our get together at our house, obviously I'll be like, okay, here's your list.
Yeah.
But I'm just not a fan of like nagging or holding each other accountable. And like, you definitely don't do it to me either. So again, I think there are a lot of couples who are more that way. Like, you said you're going to do this and you need to be doing that. And I'm not saying like you shouldn't be pushing your partner, but maybe it's the way you do it. I could definitely afford to push you more and you could probably afford to push me more. Like we could really,
I think so.
But it's a good and a bad thing.
Let's do it.
I know.
So I'm going to push you to start cooking some dinner
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah, we
Come on,
could. We
let's
should
go.
come up with like plans that way. Like, I'll do this and I'll do this for the, yeah, we should. I'll do this and you do this. And then we hold each other accountable. That's what we should do.
Okay.
That would be a really good idea, actually. I haven't ever thought about it that way. Okay. Biggest inherent differences. I am spiritual, very much led by my faith, and he's logical. Not to say he doesn't have a faith, but he is very I always know where I'm being led in life from a spiritual standpoint, and he's just does not speak that language at all. Sometimes I think we wish each other was a little bit more like that. Like, I can't make something make sense logically sometimes. It's a feeling or intuition, and you're like, you just sort of humor me and like nod and smile. And with logic, it's not that I'm not logical. It's just that I don't approach life that way.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
No, you approach life with this being led approach.
Yeah.
You're very.
We're not talking about like everything, just like big. I just want to make that clear.
Yeah. Well, right. I mean,
Like, certain things have to get done, whether or not I want to do them.
yeah. I am being led to clean the kitchen.
I didn't feel led today, so I didn't do it.
Yeah, that's right.
We're speaking. Yeah. Not specifically here.
Yeah, no. But in general, like general directions, right?
Yeah.
Like you feel, and after all, you've been through a lot. You've had a lot of time to reflect. You've had a lot of solitude.
Mm-hmm.
Having been in a wheelchair for years as well, there's a lot of reflection that you've done over the years that has probably enhanced what you were already, because you were always, spiritual. But I would say you probably become more in touch with that side of yourself and have allowed yourself to be led, probably because you have had that solitude and you've really tapped into that, and that's kind of become who you are.
Yeah, very, very true. I think also too, like, we respect each other's differences that way. Like, he really, I don't know, like, sometimes I wish I was more logical, and I think he wishes he was more spiritual. I'll talk about my faith in a way that he can't relate, even though he has a faith, but it's different from my faith, where it's like, I don't know, like, it's a personal journey, obviously, for each one of us, but I think we admire each other for those different reasons. Like, I admire how logical he's able to be and how unemotional he can be at times, because for me, I could use some of that, and I think vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, don't you think? But again, we're complement to each other as well. Yeah. He is not the deepest thinker, and communicating doesn't come naturally to him. Again, this is our biggest inherent differences, which I don't know if we could have two of me in this relationship, honestly. Can you even freaking imagine?
Oh, God, that'd be like miserable.
Or even two of you. Like, I just feel like.
But can you imagine? Oh, well, first of all, God help, like, anybody that's like married to somebody like me. So you're a saint. But like to have like two of me, to have like two of me in really, oh God, that would be miserable. Like, seriously.
Honey, I think two of me is worse.
You'd have great communication. How about
we
that?
would just never stop talking. Yeah. So funny. Yeah. I mean, that's why I think we're a complement. And again, I think
there would be a lot of silence in the house if there were two of me.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah.
Which then it's like, that's not good.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a listener, and you turned me into a talker in our relationship.
Yeah.
It's like the only relationship I have where I'm the primary talker.
The only one.
But I kind of make you talk. So I do get you talking.
Yeah, I'm here, aren't I?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And having a clean house obviously isn't a priority to him. He'd rather I cook. I wish he was cleaner. These are our biggest inherent differences. And then lastly, love languages. So Mark is a physical touch.
Oh, big sigh right before you said
No,
that.
I'm
Do
sorry.
y'all hear that?
See, I'm tired too. But he is. Like his love language is physical touch. Mine is words of affirmation. We're both not wonderful at giving each other our respective love languages. What's funny is we're great at quality time and acts of service, which are ones that are not our primary. Like love, we're great at quality time and we're great at acts of service, but those aren't our primaries. Neither one of us have a huge love of gifts. I mean, I won't turn it away. Don't get me wrong, but I think that our love languages, I think that we tend to give what we want. So words of affirmation, I'm great at giving. Like I am affirming everybody around me all the time, and I'm telling everybody how great they are, and like I'm really good with my kids. I'm good with Mark. I'm full of praise. I sometimes need that reassurance and validation from him, and he just assumes I know how he feels about me, and I do know, but sometimes it's nice to hear, and so sometimes I have to ask him, like, do you think I did okay, or did you think this podcast was okay, or do you think that, and then he'll give it to me, but he doesn't. It doesn't come like second nature for you to give me those. And then what do you think about the physical touch?
Well, the crazy thing about that part of it for you is because you have your physical ailments, that has actually taken a toll on you from a physical standpoint.
From a sensory standpoint.
From a sensory standpoint. Thank you. Sensory standpoint. Like it is hard for you to be touched sometimes, not all the time.
Not all the time, yeah.
Yeah, but sometimes sometimes it's loud noises or physical touch will have these chilling effects on you, or will cause you anxiety.
Yeah.
Due to your illness. So
unfortunately, it's first thing in the morning and it's in the morning and at night, which tends to be like when you're in bed, when you would cuddle. And it's like it's the last thing I want to do is like cuddle, I'm not the type that's going to fall asleep in his arms. Not to say I was never, I think one point I used to be like that, but it is a true sensory thing with me. And so, but I feel like I could get better at other ways. Like I could definitely offer more hugs and more hugs and kisses and more like that, those kinds of things, where it's not like a long-term touch. And yeah, I'm trying to think of
challenge accepted.
Yeah. Well, again, I think it's holding each other accountable. Like he would never say, I mean, in my last marriage, it was like this, because he was, I don't know, another physical touch person. He would get upset, where Mark won't get upset. Like he won't be like, you haven't hugged me all day or whatever. Like, when was the last time you kissed me or whatever? He just doesn't do that. But, which I appreciate, but at the same time, I'm like, well, shoot, when was the last time? So I definitely have room for growth there. We both have room for growth. I mean, it's just, we recognize our faults and our strengths, and we bring what we're really strong at. We definitely are always bringing it, but I think we both recognize that we're fall short in some of the other areas.
Everybody always falls short somewhere,
But does everybody admit it? And does everybody own it? I mean, I definitely own the fact that I could be better. I mean, it's just, well, I'll use your phrase. The phrase you like to use in every area of your life. It's true. I mean, so you're not just making it up, but you like to use the phrase, it doesn't occur to me, or it didn't occur to me. Things that are like, things that are, I can't think of anything specific off the top of my head, but I'm like, how does it not occur to you? Think very obvious things. And for me, sometimes like giving a hug or a kiss won't occur. It literally won't occur to me because my mind is somewhere else. And so it needs to be more top of mind for me. I won't turn it away though. Like if he's, if you say, can I get a hug or, so it's just about like bringing it to my attention. Same with me asking you, did I do okay? Am I okay?
Exactly.
Whatever. Yeah.
Yep.
So I think to wrap it up here, things we are constantly working on are the love languages, our social life, being too comfortable, And I would say date nights. I would say that's another thing. Like,
yeah, that's fallen off.
Yeah, we
Try to do it
yeah.
intentionally for a little bit.
Yeah.
But that just
I think
kind
it was
of
before
off.
COVID, because
Yeah.
I think COVID.
Oh,
yeah, I
that's a
think
good
that's what
point.
happened. Honestly, I think that's what happened.
Yeah.
Because we were like really on a roll for like
Mm-hmm.
a couple of months, every weekend, and it's so important. I feel like, you know, one of the things that when Jasmine was a baby, Mark and I used to be really great at these things. When Jasmine was a baby, we didn't have a lot of. We're going through the recession. I was sick, you know, going through my illness. And when Jordan would be at his dad's house, we would very intentionally, mind you, this is when I was like really not feeling well too. When we had a baby, we put her to bed at like 8:00 at night, and then we would together, remember, make dinner, and then we'd light candles at the dining room table, and we would have dinner together, and it was like our moment to connect, and we would do that like regularly.
Yeah, like bow tie pasta.
Yeah, but do you remember like how intentional we were about it, and we would do it regularly? We had a million excuses not to do it, but it's like we were so intentional back then. Gosh, but that was like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So we could definitely get better at that. So I think those are the areas that we're working on. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I feel like we're very raw, real, authentic, transparent
Yeah.
in all areas of
Yeah,
our lives.
it's
I mean,
all-
we
all
are
real.
who we are. We're not super exciting, but one thing we are consistent. So here we are 20 years later, still going strong. So
Yeah.
if you guys like this episode, please subscribe to the show, hit that like button if you're watching on YouTube. And if you guys want to see more episodes with Mark, let us know either in a review.
Smash that subscribe button. That's what they
He's
say,
talking
right?
to the camera. If you're listening on podcast, he's talking to the camera. Leave us a review, 5-star rating, and let us know if you guys want me to have Mark back on. If there's another subject you guys want us to tackle, we can. This is really fun. So
Yeah, believe it or not, I'm the funnier one of the two. Just for the record.
we didn't even talk about that, but that's the humor aspect. Okay. All right. Well, to be continued. We'll do that next time.
Okay.
All right, guys. I will see you next week. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Thanks so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this conversation, please give it a like and leave me a comment. I want to know what you guys think. Also, if you're looking for more information about how to be a guest on the show, please go to our website at humanityunlockedpodcast.com. We only record shows in person, and we are located in Sacramento, California. Oh, and if you're not subscribed, make sure you tap that button so you can get updated on weekly episodes as they go live. Is that it? I think that's it. See you guys next time.